Watch this crow. It's perched on a feeder, doing nothing unusual, until a voice reaches it. And in that instant, something changes. Its head turns, sharp and precise, toward the sound. If you didn't know better, you'd call that fear. You'd be wrong. That is not a startled animal. That is an animal running a calculation, in real time, on the exact sound that just reached it. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what it decided. Not guessed, decided. Welcome to Backyard Lens. Subscribe before you go. Here's what most people never learn. Every bird within range of your voice is doing some version of what this crow just did, whether you notice it or not. Chickadees, robins, sparrows, crows. Each one runs its own version of the same silent judgment, every single time you speak outside. This video is going to walk you through exactly how that works, species by species, second by second. And we are going to end exactly where we started, back with this same crow, with a full answer to the one question worth asking. What was it actually thinking? That crow was not guessing. It was measuring. A bird's hearing operates roughly 10 times faster than yours, resolving in 1/100th of a second what your ear smooths into a single blur. What reaches you as one sentence reaches a bird as dozens of separate acoustic events, stacked and sorted in real time. Each one carries a signature. Low resonance reads as size. A big animal. A possible threat. The rhythm of your speech reads as your emotional state, tense and clipped or slow and unhurried. And if that voice has crossed the bird's path before, the pattern itself reads as identity. Not a guess at a stranger, a match against a file. This is what was happening in the second before that crow moved. Not fear, cataloging. Your voice arrived as raw material, size, mood, and name. And the bird sorted through all three before you'd even finish the sentence. You experience speech as communication. A bird experiences it as data. That gap is the whole reason this video exists, and it is also the reason what happens next, second by second, is worth watching closely. The result of all that sorting shows up in the body before it shows up in behavior. In the first fraction of a second after your voice lands, the bird runs what researchers call an acoustic startle response. Not panic, not flight, something smaller and stranger. A full-body pause. Feeding stops. Movement halts. Every muscle holds its position while the brain finishes its calculation. This is not hesitation for its own sake. It is the bird checking its own records, known or unknown, safe or threat, calm or agitated. All three questions, answered in under a second, before a single wing beat happens. And the answer changes everything that follows. If the voice comes back unknown, the bird eases backward, putting distance between itself and an unresolved question. But if the voice comes back known, and comes back safe, something else happens. The bird doesn't just relax, it moves closer. That detail is the one most people miss entirely, because it happens too fast to watch, and too quietly to notice, unless you already know where to look. You have likely triggered this response 1,000 times, without ever once seeing it happen. Not every bird runs that calculation the same way, and no bird runs it faster than the chickadee. Its brain routes human voices through the exact same neural pathway it uses for alarm calls, the same channel that warns the flock about a hawk overhead. That is not a coincidence. It means your voice enters a chickadee's mind through its single most urgent survival system, the one built to separate life from death in half a second. And yet, if that chickadee already knows you, nothing about its behavior looks urgent at all. It does not scatter. It does not call out a warning. It stops caching seeds mid-motion and simply orients toward the sound, head turned, body still, fully attentive. That stillness is easy to mistake for wariness. It is the opposite. A chickadee that did not know you would already be gone. The fact that it stayed, and turned toward you instead of away, means your voice passed through its most sensitive detector and came back marked safe. It is not tolerating you. It is listening to someone it already recognizes through the one channel it trusts least with strangers. The robin reads your voice through a completely different lens. Where the chickadee is listening for danger, the robin is listening for opportunity. Its brain treats a human voice as one variable in a running probability calculation. Does this sound correlate with disturbed soil and exposed worms? A calm, unhurried voice suggests slow, deliberate movement, the kind that turns over earth. So the robin edges closer. Not out of trust, but out of math. Your voice is, to a robin that doesn't know you, simply a number in a food equation. But that math changes for robins that have known the same person for months. Something shifts past pure calculation. They approach faster. They hold their ground at closer range. They hesitate less, even before there's any sign of disturbed ground at all. The voice itself has become the signal, not just a predictor of one. That is the quiet part worth sitting with. A bird that started out running cold probability on a stranger's voice can end up responding to it the way it might respond to comfort. Not because the math stopped. Because the answer, run enough times, became certain. None of this happens in isolation. When you speak outside, you are not addressing one bird. You are broadcasting to every bird within range at once, and every one of them reacts on its own terms, in the same breath. The chickadee orients from the feeder. The robin shifts its weight on the lawn. A nuthatch pauses mid-climb on the trunk. Sparrows in the hedge go still. All of it inside 2 seconds, and all of it happening at a speed and scale most people will never consciously register. Scientists have a name for this: acoustic landscape mapping. It describes how a shared outdoor space reorganizes itself the instant a sound like your voice enters it. Every bird uses that single event to update its own private map. Where is the source? How far? Moving or still? Known or not? Each animal runs its own version of that question, independently, and the yard rearranges itself accordingly, then settles back as if nothing occurred. But something did occur. A dozen separate creatures just assessed you, simultaneously, without conferring, and arrived at their own conclusions. That is not background noise. That is a room full of judgment, rendered in silence. That judgment does not stay passive forever. Given enough time, it turns into anticipation. A bird that has learned your voice reliably comes before the feeder gets filled, stops waiting for confirmation. It starts moving the moment it hears you, not when the door opens, not when you step outside, but while you are still indoors, your voice reaching it through glass and drywall. It abandons whatever it was doing. It orients toward the door. It waits, already positioned, before you've even reached for the handle. Researchers tracking this over months found the same pattern again and again. Birds fed by the same person for half a year began responding to that person's voice heard through walls, arriving early, holding position, well before any visual confirmation existed. Think about what that actually requires. Not memory of your face, not memory of your schedule, memory of your voice specifically, filed away and trusted enough to act on before there is any other evidence you're even coming. You have never seen this happen, because by the time you open the door, the bird is already there, already waiting, already certain it was right to expect you. That certainty has a fragile side, though, one that only shows up when your voice stops sounding like itself. When you're sick, your voice changes in ways you barely notice. Lower resonance, a slower, heavier rhythm, small shifts to you, but to a bird that has spent months cataloging your exact acoustic signature, that shift is not small at all. It is a mismatch. Field researchers who tracked this found something striking. Birds familiar with a specific person grew visibly more cautious when that person's voice sounded even slightly off from what was on file. They didn't flee. They didn't treat you as a stranger. They simply held back, watching more closely than they normally would for someone they had trusted for months, as if waiting for confirmation that this was still really you. And once your voice recovered, once the resonance and rhythm settled back to what they recognized, that caution disappeared just as quietly as it arrived, without any signal from you that you'd even been unwell. The bird noticed before your neighbors did. It simply had no way of asking, and no way of telling you it was worried. Which brings us back to the crow. Of every bird in your yard, none of them are running an operation as sophisticated as this one. Crows do not just hear your voice. They analyze it, cross-reference it, and file it, with a precision researchers have compared directly to human facial recognition. A crow that has classified you as safe will move toward your location the instant it hears you speak. A crow that has classified you as a threat does something far more consequential. It sounds a specific alert, and that alert does not stay with one bird. It spreads, crow to crow, across the entire local network, until every crow in range knows exactly what you are before you've ever crossed their path. Your voice, once heard by a single crow, effectively gets broadcast through your whole neighborhood's crow population. This is the exact mechanism running behind the reaction you saw at the very start of this video. That crow on the feeder was not startled by your voice. It was classifying it, in real time, and about to make a decision that would outlast the moment entirely. So here is what that crow decided. In the second its head turned toward your voice, it ran the same classification every crow runs: size, rhythm, familiarity, threat, and it came back with an answer. Safe, known. And that answer didn't stay with just that one bird. It moved through the network, crow to crow, until your voice was already filed across your entire neighborhood before you finished speaking. You can test all of this yourself this afternoon. Stand near your feeder in silence for 2 minutes. Then speak, in your normal voice, and watch the next 3 seconds closely. The freeze, the turn, the reorientation. It's there. You'll see it now. What all of this adds up to is simple, and it's been true longer than you've known it. You already have a relationship with the birds in your yard. Not imagined, not one-sided. Measured, cataloged, and acted on, every single time you've spoken outside without thinking twice about it. Tell me in the comments, has a bird ever reacted to your voice before you even stepped outside? I read every one. Subscribe before you go, because next time, we're going somewhere even fewer people have looked.